On February 29th, 2020, we were treated to one of the most bizarre endings to a football match that you will ever see. Due to insulting banners aimed at Hoffenheim's owner, Dietmar Hopp, both teams refused to play the closing minutes of their match, instead passing the ball around amongst each other to waste time. Hey, I'm Adrian and welcome to Rabona TV's explainer on just what exactly happened in Germany this past weekend and what it is that caused it. If you're finding us for the first time, then consider subscribing to join our growing community if you dig the content and want more explainers, player bios, and more. Anyway, for this video, we'll go over the fan protests from this past weekend, then roll back the clock to dive into who Hopp is, a bit of the 50+1 rule and how that figures into this, and collective punishments and why ultras groups are protesting. Let's go. So what has happened so far in 2020 with regards to these protests and stoppages? On Saturday, February 22nd, a match between Hoffenheim and Borussia Mönchengladbach was at risk of being abandoned due to Mönchengladbach supporters unfurling a banner the likes of which has been seen since that match on the 22nd, and far before it as well. We'll get to that soon. But for Mönchengladbach fans to unfurl this banner is to show solidarity to one of their rivals, Borussia Dortmund, or at least to their fans. There were multiple incidents of fan protests across Germany on the weekend of February 29th and March 1st as well. First, in Dortmund versus Freiburg, the match was halted momentarily due to some anti-Dietmar Hopp chanting. In Köln, there were anti-Hopp and anti-DFB banners. Then, on Saturday, with Bayern playing away to Hoffenheim, the match was paused just after an hour as Bayern away supporters had their own anti-Hopp banners to unfurl and chants to shout. Well, the referee followed the protocol that UEFA has implemented whenever there is any sort of hateful speech in the crowd, which is suspend the match. That's step one. With players and staff of Bayern going to speak to the fans and asking them to take down the banner, including Hansi Flick, Bayern's coach and former coach of Hoffenheim, the match resumed. But the anti-Hopp material came out again. This meant that step 2 of the protocol was enacted. Take the teams off of the pitch. Step 3 would mean that the match would be abandoned, but instead of that, the players came onto the pitch and protested the actions of the fans by awkwardly standing around and having a kickabout while the clock ran down the 90 minutes. Of course, Bayern were winning 6-0 at this time already, so it wasn't the most high stakes of situations, but it did send a clear message. The players are willing to stop playing if there's hate of any kind in the crowd, and there could be consequences to hate of any kind in the crowd in the future. Then on Sunday at Union Berlin versus Wolfsburg, Union Ultras showed further solidarity to the Dortmund fans by unfurling a banner of their own and voicing their displeasure with the DFB. This match also made it to step 2 of the UEFA protocol. Both teams taken off of the pitch and a PA announcement warning the crowd that another incident and the match would be abandoned. They did manage to finish the match normally, not with the keepy-ups like Hoffenheim versus Bayern did. So now that we know what happened recently, who is Dietmar Hopp and why are so many fans unhappy with him and standing in solidarity with Borussia Dortmund? Or just against the DFB? Dietmar Hopp grew up in Hoffenheim, a village close to Sinsheim, Germany. He played football as a kid for Hoffenheim, though at this time, the club was nowhere close to the Bundesliga side that you know today. After studying telecommunications engineering, Hopp got a job with software developer IBM and later founded SAP SE, a software used by businesses globally to manage operations and customer relations. SAP became the go-to for businesses internationally, and with 180 offices around the world, Hopp began seeing the fruits of his labor, and then some. According to Forbes, as of early March 2020, Hopp is worth an estimated $15.1 billion US. Much of that wealth is located in his personal foundation, in which he invests in, as Forbes notes, sports, medicine, education, and social programs. When Hopp decided to invest in his boyhood club, Hoffenheim, they were playing in the 9th tier of German football. Once Hopp and his wealth became involved with Hoffenheim, he oversaw their promotion from the 8th tier of German football all the way to the Regionalliga, or 3rd tier, all 5 promotions occurring from 1990 through to 2001. Once they were in the 3rd tier and the Bundesliga was in sight, Hopp began ramping up the investment in the club and brought in Ralf Rangnick, who you may recognize from RB Leipzig, and by 2007 they were promoted to the 2nd Bundesliga and then to the Bundesliga in 2008. Some outlets suspect that in total, Hopp has spent 200 million euros, while the more accepted figure is somewhere between 300 million and 400 million. 100 million of which was spent just from 1998 to 2008. Now, what's the matter with all of this? Why can't a guy try to build up his boyhood club with his own money and give people in the region a Bundesliga team to get behind? In regards to the 50+1 rule, here's a quick explanation of it. I have a video that delves deeper in case you want to check it out, but it's retro Adrian, so I'm just warning you. But I will be using some passages from that video now. The 50+1 rule is basically in place to ensure that football in Germany is for the fans, and the fans still have some say in things such as matchday ticket prices and the general running of the club. Borussia Dortmund is a commonly used example of how the 50+1 rule is used effectively. Members of the club vote on various things such as ticket prices and board members. That's why ticket prices in Germany are much lower than elsewhere across Europe, and why matchday experiences in general are more fan-centric. What else does the rule ensure? Well, in order for a team to compete within the Bundesliga, the club itself, i.e. the members of the club, as opposed to an outside investor, must hold the majority of its voting rights, the majority being 50 shares plus one more share. Any club who have a commercial investor with more than a 49% stake will not be allowed to compete within the Bundesliga, besides a couple of exceptions, which we of course will dive into now. When the 50+1 rule was put into practice in 1998, they also included an exception to the rule. Any individual or company that has invested in a club for over 20 years may apply for majority control of said club. For example, Bayer Leverkusen was founded by Bayer employees, Bayer being the massive German pharmaceutical company. Similarly, VfL Wolfsburg was founded by Volkswagen employees in 1945. Given the long-standing interest by these investors, Bayer and Volkswagen, they were granted exceptions to the 50+1 rule. A more recent example of an exemption comes by way of Hoffenheim, where in 2014, Hopp was offered a majority stake in Hoffenheim's ownership as he had been investing in the club for over 2 decades. But given that Hopp had basically built up Hoffenheim from nothing, remember they were in the 9th tier of German football before, he clearly had been bankrolling them for a while now, but somehow getting around the 50+1 rule. That in essence is why the rest of German football's fans have so much disdain for Hopp. In 2008, Hopp showed some self-awareness in an interview with Der Spiegel upon Hoffenheim's first season in the Bundesliga. Quote, "I believe that 80% of the population approves of what we are doing. Those who are more vocal see me as epitomizing the commercialization of football. I'm the face. One day, when the door is opened to foreign investors and people, such as the Sheikh of Abu Dhabi, buy stakes in the Bundesliga, perhaps then they'll say, it would be nice if we still had someone like Hopp. That's because I do things differently. Making money is not my goal." End quote. And so in 2009, it was Borussia Dortmund fans who were some of the first to protest Hoffenheim's arrival in the Bundesliga, unfurling the now all too familiar banner of Hopp's face with the crosshairs overlaid on top of it. So why have we recently seen a rash of anti-Hoppism lately? Why now, essentially? And is it really all just disdain for Hopp, or is there a bigger picture here? So as I just mentioned before, Dortmund fans were extremely vocal about Hopp and Hoffenheim back in 2008, one of the first Bundesliga clubs to have their fans be quite vocal about Hopp. But it wasn't just their fans, it was their CEO, Hans-Joachim Watzke as well, as he referred to Hoffenheim as a, quote, test tube club. That they didn't grow organically in the fan-centric culture of Bundesliga football. Then in 2011, in a match between Hoffenheim and Dortmund, where Hoffenheim were the home side, the stadium's PA system was used to drown out chants from Dortmund fans that were allegedly anti-Hopp. These two teams have been at odds over Hopp for a long time now, with anti-Hopp banners and chants almost always present at matches between the two. So in February of 2020, Dortmund's away support was handed a 2-year ban from Hoffenheim Stadium by the German FA, or DFB, due to repeatedly displaying anti-Hopp banners and chants. Now this flies in the face of what Reinhard Grindel, president of the DFB back in 2017, had promised, that there would be no more collective punishments of German football fan bases. In essence, he claimed that they would not punish entire fan bases for the acts of the few when it came to offensive banners or lighting off flares, stuff like that. Now the DFB did not put this promise into law. It wasn't an officially adopted stance or formal rule, even though the former president did promise that collective punishments would no longer be administered. Back in November of 2018, a year after Grindel had said that they wouldn't have collective punishments, Dortmund were fined 50,000 euros and their fans wouldn't be allowed to travel for matches away to Hoffenheim for 3 years. That of course was changed to 2 years on February 20th, 2020. But fans across the Bundesliga still saw this as the DFB going back on their word regarding collective punishment and pandering to Hopp, the man who they see as the face of commercialized football, and who for them represents the first domino to have fallen in the integrity of the 50+1 rule and German football culture. Then on top of that, you have the DFB growing less and less tolerant of German ultras and their banners of protest, banners that are critical of certain aspects of Bundesliga culture, rules, punishments, and everything in between. You have German fans then feeling like they are being treated like criminals. Their voices are being snuffed out. They don't recognize the German football culture around them anymore, and that the governing body has sided with the man Hopp, who they see as the one who cast the first blow in killing the culture they love. Meanwhile, the DFB feels like they need to punish the hateful protest banners in order for their authority to be recognized, with the fear that the stands within their league will become lawless, so to speak. It's quite the mess, and you feel that it's at a tipping point now. But that will just about do it for this explainer on the Hopp, Hoffenheim, and the protest situation, how Dortmund's involved, and everything in between. If you enjoyed this video, then feel free to hit that like button or subscribe if you're feeling extra generous. My name is Adrian, this is Rona TV, I love ya, and take care.